Hello everyone, I'm Steph Roberge and I'm one of the owners of 𝐒𝐨 Entertainment, a VR arcade here in Edmonton. When we hear the words virtual reality, a lot of us automatically assume we're talking about gaming. Even people who aren't very technologically savvy still have a rough idea about what virtual reality is. Usually it starts with, oh, those glasses. And while it is used very heavily in gaming, there are a lot of other applications that a lot of people aren't aware of. We could go back as far as the 1800s with the panoramic photo viewer, or we could go to the 1950s, which brought us the Sensorama. But what I'd like to focus on is just the last 6 years of VR development, which in my opinion, we've seen the fastest adoption of the technology, and surprisingly, it's not just in the gaming world. While the original Oculus Rift did come into developers' hands and then later consumer, other industries have also seen the benefit of this technology. It's currently being used for marketing travel destinations. Even before the pandemic, when we were unable to fly to our favorite vacation getaways, VR tourism can take us to our favorite museums or put us up close and personal with famous works of art. We can walk around our hotel room before we ever step foot in the country, and we can use it to explore the area. Luxury items like cars used to have to be test driven in person. Now we can do it virtually. And not only that, you can even customize your car's color and features before it even gets manufactured. Even in the classroom, subjects like chemistry and biology, VR can play a huge role in animal dissection or even experiments that are considered too dangerous to do in a classroom setting. But one of the biggest adoptions has actually come in the medical field, which really isn't surprising, considering VR has been proven to reduce your stress and anxiety. It's the perfect option for those with a fear of medical procedures or even needles. It also gives your surgeon the ability to practice the procedure before you go under the knife, or show you what's going to happen in your procedure to put your mind at ease. And let's be honest, practice makes perfect. It's also being used to pass the time in chemotherapy or dialysis. And it can also be used for people with limited mobility because you can access it outside of the headset. But really, all of this is just the tip of the iceberg. The technology is constantly improving, and so will the care that we get from these advances. I really think we're just at the beginning of our journey with VR and into its true potential. And I really can't wait to see how it develops.
Hello, I'm Eric Roberge, and I am one of the owners of the VR arcade 𝐒𝐈. I'm going to talk today about VR hardware and how quickly the technology is progressing. In 2014, Oculus was purchased by Facebook, bringing a ton of attention to an industry that had been largely ignored for many years. In March of 2016, the Oculus Rift was launched, followed quickly by the HTC Vive. For the first time, we had high-quality, room-scale VR headsets widely available and backed by tech giants like Facebook and Steam. Until these big players entered the field, we had kind of a chicken and egg situation when it came to VR. Developers did not want to spend resources developing games and softwares for a piece of hardware that nobody owned, and nobody wanted to buy hardware that had no compelling games or experiences for it. In just 5 years since the launch of those two headsets, we have seen an explosion of design and innovation. We've seen the resolution and pixel density more than double, and the refresh rate jump from a standard of 90 Hertz to as high as 144 Hertz. We've seen the emergence of technologies like eye tracking, hand tracking, wireless adapters, foveated rendering, haptic suits, omnidirectional treadmills, all this stuff in just the last couple of years. We've gone from tracking systems that can track just the head and hands of a single player in their living room to systems that can track a dozen or more players' full bodies across an entire warehouse scale environment. One of the advancements I'm most excited about is hand tracking. We've seen this most recently on the Oculus Quest 2, which is a standalone VR headset that uses built-in cameras for tracking. Hand tracking was added in well after the headset's launch as more of a novelty than a core feature, and most of the games still require the conventional controllers to play. Even so, we've seen some amazing applications come out in just months. Imagine casting spells by making different hand gestures, or learning to play the piano with just your headset. We are now seeing a divergence in the market. On one side, you have the cheap console-like standalone headsets like the Oculus Quest and Vive Focus, and on the other, the premium PC-tethered headsets like the Valve Index and the Vive Pro 2. Despite the overlap in features and capabilities, I believe each has its place in the market. The same way your cell phone and PC can do many of the same things, but one is more suitable to certain tasks than the other. In 2016, the global VR market was valued at just over $2 billion. Now it's on track to hit nearly $22 billion by the end of 2021, as expected to hit $186 billion by 2026. Clearly, we're just scratching the surface of what's possible with VR.
Hi there, my name is Dawn Silver. I am at NAIT for Digital Media and IT, and I have been studying there for 3 years now. I am in the DMIT stream, and I am studying game design. My particular field of expertise is primarily 3D artist, where I get to make textures and 3D meshes for different environments, in addition to character art. Coming up with a fresh concept in your mind, a little bit hard to do, but knowing who your target audience is and knowing where you want to go with the game is very essential in just starting. Some of the game development is a little bit different between what you would see on a flat screen game and a virtual reality game. So most things are similar, particularly things like frames, optimization, storytelling. But there are some few key differences. With optimization, you really need to make sure you have a good refresh rate in order to avoid individuals getting sick while they are playing VR, as a lower frame quality can lead to individuals getting more sick. Movement controls are really important to key into your game, simply because WASD doesn't quite transfer one-to-one. So instead, a lot of developers will opt for teleportation. There's some different movements where you pull yourself, so being able to give that to individuals is really important. There is money that does need to come to end up developing these games. Indie developers are more common nowadays, but the video game development scene isn't cheap. So the low end of simple games can start upwards of $5,000, most mid-tier games falling between $20,000 and $100,000. Massive AAA games even being higher than that in the millions. Going into buying assets and environments and paying staff, paying yourself is all very, very important when making these games, but it does come at a very high cost. The engine that's used for VR development is primarily the Unity engine as well as Unreal Engine. Both have their pros and cons into using them. They feature different things about them. So editing scripts and the store on each of their platforms is different for each one. And knowing which one you want to use is really important. To create the game that you want to make in VR, you kind of have to start with a core idea. You need to use your target audience thinking as to why it is a benefit of using VR games versus something like a standalone game on a flat screen. With that comes all the different hardware that is out there. There's many, many different headsets on the market now today for consumers as well as industry use. And knowing what headset you want to kind of cater to is really important. You can cater to all of them, but that does take time and effort. Some programs also offer mitigation fees. So Oculus particularly has a developers program that will help pay for some of the first fees that you're having to pay for Unity development fees or Unity engine fees. So that's really important to end up kind of looking around and seeing what headsets you want to have your game for. Being able to target every headset is beneficial for having the most amount of consumers available, but it makes development a little bit more tricky with having to playtest on each and every headset. After you've figured out like your kind of concept and what you're going to go towards, it's time to start development. So when you're in active development, that is going to be where you spend most of your time. That comes from the 3D models that you have to make, all the programming, scenes and environments, as well as the audio and heads-up display. All those are things that make a game unique and is what makes your game particularly yours. So after everything, where can you learn if you're interested? Particularly in Alberta, Lethbridge College offers a virtual reality and augmented reality course that takes about a year, and they support VR development. Additionally, places such as Red Deer College, NAIT, have 2-year programs for general 3D and animation that you can go to, and most of those do transfer over. There's lots of key tutorials online and lots of people willing to show like industry secrets. And there's always going to be someone out there who can fix your idea, can help you, and that's something you can do even from home with just some of your time. Applying all your knowledge from previous education and online experience is key. So familiarizing yourself with 3D game development and go make some VR games.
Hello, I'm Will, and I'm talking about fitness in VR today because that's how it's affected me in my 5 years of VR use. So VR has benefited me in many ways. When I first got my headset, I played a lot of shooter games, flight simulators, the same sort of games that I played on my computer. My favorite game when I started with VR was Beat Saber. It's a rhythm game that makes you swing your arms and slice blocks to the beat of songs. It also allowed me to connect with my friends. So I played a lot of board games and tabletop simulator, even with my friends from down in the States. We could go to a club on a Friday night during the pandemic, hear that thumping music and have fun with each other. One of my favorite games was Elite Dangerous, which allowed us to travel the Milky Way galaxy like all of our favorite heroes from Star Wars. But where VR really changed my life is in fitness. So I used to be over 100 pounds heavier than I am today. I looked very different. I was pretty unmotivated, didn't want to go to the gym or jog, anything like that. But VR was a great way to trick myself into physical activity. I started with Beat Saber. Once you get through the easy levels, it's a little more difficult. I found myself running out of breath by the time I got to the end of the song. I couldn't finish the songs because of my fitness, which meant I had to improve myself and my fitness to play the game I love. Since realizing the potential of VR to get me fit, I expanded my game library to work out the rest of my body as much as I could. Pistol whip was a great addition. Got the legs moving, lots of squatting because you're dodging bullets coming at you. That's another rhythm game. You shoot people to the beat. Lots of fun. I love my music. Thrill of the Fight is another great one. That's a boxing game that favors realism. You have to punch fast if you want to actually hurt the guy. And it splits it up into rounds, 1 minute rounds. You're really pushing yourself for that 1 minute. You get a 30-second break. You go back in. Great cardio. And then my personal favorite, Gorilla Tag. That's just tag. You're a gorilla. All you have is arms, no legs. So you're running around like this, chasing other people and playing tag. I love that one. I could play that for hours if my arms lasted that long. I'm thrilled to see what more comes out of VR, especially for fitness and exercise. I love getting a sweat going while playing video games. There's VR treadmills coming out. They're just starting to reach consumers. You can run around in your favorite games. Huge worlds to explore. Games like Skyrim, Half-Life Alyx, and work my legs much more as I get to work my arm from your living room. There's actually a website that lists a bunch of VR games as well as some data for physical activity in those VR games. So you get the METs, calories burned per minute, a brief description of the type of activity you're going to be finding yourself doing in that game. That website is called the Virtual Reality Institute of Health and Exercise. Great resource if you're looking to get fit with VR.
Hello everyone, my name is David Danforth. I'm just a regular person and a gamer too. I enjoy playing things and having fun. I'm a dreamer and I like to think about the possibilities of things. And the reason why you probably want to listen to me is just because I'm a regular gamer and I have a level-headed opinion. At least most of my friends say so. Doesn't really matter. In any case, I want to answer basically the question of what's the big deal with VR, why should you care, and just generally tell you about my experiences with it, just tell you fun and interesting things. I've never really seen any other thing like VR, and I played a lot of video games, board games, like physical, like other games as well. And there's nothing else quite like it. I've never experienced a game where I get to physically react with my own body to a bullet flying at my face in slow motion and move my body in a natural way, as if it were just common, like that was something that could happen. It's the only game like that where I get to have that experience and that visceral, physical, reactionary experience to what's happening in the game. And I have yet to experience anything else like that. The menus are things that you get to interact with and push buttons with or look down in a sheet. It's much more immersive. I remember old school point and click adventure games where you were searching around on your desktop, just clicking at things and trying to find things. And the main way you figured out if there was something important to the gameplay was you moused over it and your cursor would change from an arrow to a finger. And that's how you would know that there was something important. Bring that to today, and I have an actual game where I get to explore around, look for clues, look for hidden trophies. And I'm actually like snooping around, looking underneath things, looking things up, pulling things out from a trash can or a waste paper basket, looking for anything, creating my net around in actual physical space and looking for things, searching for it, feeling like a detective. And it's still one of those like unique experiences where you could have like an escape room and you could go through all of that and have that physical there, but then you get to add in fantasy elements, things to it, things that you don't get in real life. Aphantasia is becoming more commonly known where people understand that they do in fact have this. And if you don't know what aphantasia is, it's a lack of an imagination. You can't imagine. If someone tells you to imagine an apple, you can't bring up the actual like image of an apple in your mind. But if you were to play Dungeons and Dragons and someone, instead of telling someone, imagine you walk into an inn and you see the tavern keep there and you order a drink, I can actually now show you, if we're playing Dungeons and Dragons in VR, where there is in fact a tavern keep that you get to go walk up to and interact with, and you don't have to imagine for it. It overcomes that boundary that would normally prevent you from fully enjoying the experience. VR can give people the experiences that they once lost or that they never were able to really experience like that. If someone is unable to snowboard or anything like that, we can build feedback loops and structures into things of that where they get to actually feel like they're going on top of a mountain and snowboarding down it because they were physically incapable of it. Maybe because they had a medical condition that they wouldn't be able to go up high places in that or wouldn't be able to survive. Take Dungeons and Dragons, for example. We can play a game of Dungeons and Dragons currently with the technology available to us, where we're sitting at a table, rolling dice in virtual space. You don't have to imagine what the character looks like. You get to see it, you get to experience it, and having the game play out for you, where you don't have to imagine it anymore. You get to experience it. You get to enjoy it in its truest sense. And that's honestly what the big deal is. We get to do whatever we want to do and experience it, imagine it, play with it. There's so much more to it than just another way of experiencing a game where you get to, instead of be looking at a screen, you get to look around in 360. No, you get to walk around that world. You get to explore that world. You get to feel that world. And soon, feeling that world will be more visceral, more reactionary, where you'll actually be able to do that. Like, the experience doesn't have to end where your imagination does now. We can literally make and play anything and get to experience it. And that's only the beginning. There's so much more for possibilities of VR, where Neuralink or things of science fiction get to become reality. Now it's so much more. You get to have fun, play, and experience all of these things. And I think that's what's really interesting and exciting about VR, is that it can be whatever we want it to be. It is our own experiences, and we create those and tailor those however we choose to. And I can't wait to see where it goes next. It's wonderful.